We came from Knoxville to Chattanooga, and it seemed we were destined to stay there permanently. We remained several months, but soon we were on the move again. From Chattanooga, Bragg's army went to Murfreesboro. The Federal Army was concentrating at Nashville. There was no rest for the weary. Marches and battles were the order of the day. Our army stopped at Murfreesboro. Our advance outpost was established at La Vergne. From time to time, different regiments were sent forward to do picket duty. I was on picket at the time the advance was made by Rosecrans. At the time, I was standing about 200 yards off the road, the main body of the pickets being on the Nashville and Murfreesboro Turnpike, and commanded by Lieutenant Hardy Murphy of the Rutherford Rifles. I had orders to allow no one to pass. In fact, no one was expected to pass at that point, but while standing at my post, a horseman rode up behind me. I halted him and told him to go down to the main picket on the road to pass. But he seemed so cheerful that I thought he knew me, or had a good joke to tell. He rode up and pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, handing it to me to read. It was an order from General Leonidas Polk, allowing the bearer to pass. I read it and looked up to hand it back when I discovered that he had a pistol cocked and leveled in my face. He said, "Drop that gun. You are my prisoner." I saw there was no use in resisting. I knew if I tried anything, he'd shoot, and he looked like he was about to do just that. I dropped the gun. I didn't want to spend my winter in a northern prison, and worse, be thought a deserter from my post. The Yankee picket lines weren't half a mile away. I was perfectly willing to let the spy go on, because that's what he was, but he wanted to capture a rebel, and I had made up my mind I was not going without a struggle. There I was, a prisoner for sure, and no mistake about it. His pistol was leveled. I was ordered to march. I was afraid to call out for the relief, and you can be sure I was in a bad fix. Finally, I said, "Let's call it even. I think you're a soldier. You look like a gentleman. I'm a vedette. You know the responsibility resting on me. You go your way and leave me here. Is it a bargain?" He said, "I wouldn't trust a Secesh on his word, oath, or bond. March, I say." I soon realized he had seen the relief coming up the road and was afraid to shoot. I made up my mind quickly. My gun was at my feet, just one step away. I glanced over my shoulder, then grabbed it. He saw my move and fired. The bullet missed. He spurred his horse, but I fired too and nearly tore the foreshoulder off his mount. I didn't capture the spy, but I did capture the horse, bridle, and saddle. Major Allen of the 27th Tennessee Regiment took the saddle and bridle and gave me the blanket. I remember that blanket had a picture of a big lion on it, and it was almost new. When we fell back, as the Yankee sharpshooters advanced, we left the poor horse nibbling short, dry grass. I saw a Yankee skirmisher run up, grab the reins, and give a loud whoop like he'd captured a rebel prize. They continued to advance, and we kept firing and retreating slowly. We had several pretty sharp brushes with them that day. I remember they had to cross an open field in front of us. We were lying behind a fence. As they advanced, we kept up a steady fire and drove them back each time until they brought up a regiment that whooped, yelled, and charged our skirmish line. Then we fell back again. I think we must have killed quite a few in that open field. We were firing constantly into their solid line. Battle of Murfreesboro. The next day, the Yankees were advancing. Soon they came in sight of our picket. We kept falling back and firing all day and were relieved by another regiment around dark. We rejoined our unit. A line of battle was formed on the north bank of Stone's River on the Yankee side. Bad generalship, I thought. It was Christmas. John Barleycorn was general-in-chief. Our generals, colonels, and captains had been too friendly with the bottle. They couldn't see straight. It was said to be Buckeye whiskey. They couldn't tell our men from Yankees. The privates could, but they weren't in charge. There they were, the Yankees. A battle had to be fought. We were ordered forward. I was on the skirmish line. We marched directly into the Yankee lines, their flags flying. I called Lieutenant Colonel Fryerson's attention to it, and he said, "Well, I don't know whether they're Yankees or not, but if they are, they'll come out of there mighty quick." The Yankees marched over the hill and out of sight. We were ordered forward to attack. We came right up on the Yankee line on the Wilkerson Turnpike. They were shooting our men down by the dozens. A cry rang out across the field. "You're firing on your own men." "Cease fire! Cease fire!" I shouted. In fact, the whole skirmish line was yelling, telling them they were Yankees and to keep shooting, but the order remained, "Cease fire." Captain James of Cheatham's staff was sent forward and was killed in his own yard. We were not 20 yards from the Yankees, and they were pouring hot lead and shells into us. Every man was shouting, "Cease firing! You're firing on your own men." Oakley, the color-bearer of the First Tennessee Regiment, ran straight into the Yankee line with his flag, begging his men to follow. I yelled until I was hoarse, "They're Yankees! They're Yankees! Shoot! They're Yankees!" The hill the Yankees held was alive with fire and smoke. Our men were falling like autumn leaves in a storm. The hail of bullets swept them from the field. We fell back and reformed. General Cheatham came up and advanced. I didn't fall back, but kept loading and shooting, until a shell fragment struck my arm, and then a minie ball passed through it, paralyzing and wounding me. General Cheatham kept calling the men forward, saying, "Come on, boys, follow me." The impression General Frank Cheatham made on my mind that day, leading the charge on the Wilkerson Turnpike, I'll never forget. I saw either victory or death in his face. When I saw him leading our brigade, though I was wounded, I felt sorry for him. He seemed so earnest, so determined. As he passed me, I said, "Well, General, if you're determined to die, I'll die with you." We were then at least 100 yards ahead of the brigade, Cheatham still calling the men on, leading the charge in person. That day I saw what one man, born to command, could do with a disheartened, broken line. He wasn't fighting for glory. He was fighting for his country because he loved it, and he was willing to die for it. He deserves a wreath of immortality and a warm place in every Southerner's heart for his example on that bloody field of Murfreesboro. Yes, his name will shine among the brightest in the long history of our cause. Now, one more fact. When the private soldier was ordered to charge and capture 12 pieces of artillery, heavily supported by infantry, Maney's brigade raised a yell and swooped down on the Yankees like a whirlwind of woodpeckers in a hailstorm, paying them back with compound interest. Every gun was loaded. They marched in solid file toward the blazing crest, and when they fired, there was a sudden hush in the storm of battle, because nearly all the Yankees were dead. I can't recall ever seeing more dead men, horse, and captured cannons all jumbled together than at that place, on the Wilkerson Turnpike. The ground was covered with blue coats. If memory serves, there were 80 dead horses. By this time, our command had reformed and charged the crest. The spectacle was grand. With cheers and shouts, they charged up the hill, shooting down and bayoneting the fleeing cannoneers. General Cheatham Colonel Field and Joe Lee slashed with swords. The victory was complete. The entire left wing of the Federal Army was driven back 5 miles. Their dead and wounded lay in our lines. We captured many pieces of artillery, rifles, and prisoners. When I was hit, the shell and shot knocked the breath out of me. I cried, "Oh, oh, I'm wounded," and grabbed my arm. I thought it had been torn from my shoulder. The brigade had fallen back about 200 yards. General Cheatham's presence rallied them. They were soon in line, ready to follow such a gallant leader. And had that order, "Ceasefire, you're firing on your own men," not been given, Maney's brigade would have captured 18 artillery pieces and 10,000 prisoners. This I know to be true. As I made my way to the field hospital, I overtook another soldier. I don't know his regiment. His left arm was completely gone. His face was as white as paper. The sleeve in front of his coat had been torn away, and I could see the frayed edge of his shirt sucked into the wound. I looked closer. "Great God," I whispered. I could see his heart beating, his lungs expanding with breath. He walked a few more steps, then suddenly dropped and died. Without a groan, without a struggle, I could tell 100 stories like that from the battlefield. But I'll leave it with this one, because it's the one I remember most clearly, robbing a dead Yankee. In passing over the battlefield, I came across a dead Yankee colonel. He had on the finest clothes I ever saw, a red sash and a fine sword. I particularly noticed his boots. I needed them and had made up my mind to wear them out for him, but I couldn't bear the thought of wearing a dead man's shoes. I took hold of his foot, lifted it up, and made one attempt to pull the boot off. Just then I happened to look up, and the colonel had his eyes wide open and seemed to be staring straight at me. He was stone dead, but I dropped that foot quick. That was my first and last attempt to rob a dead Yankee. That concludes the 9th part of the story. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe for more episodes and leave a comment.